so many.
Condo your closet.
Yeah. Yeah, Marie, is that what it is?
Marie
Kondo.
Kondo.
I've never really, nothing really sparks joy after the first time I wear it. Like, after I buy it and I wear it the first time, then I wash it, and I'm like, this
Well, you
isn't
just give it
really-
to me.
Yeah. I just need to, like, multi-purge, like, every closet. But, yeah, there you go. Little life hack for you.
So we have some news out of Hannibal that we're going to be reporting here, but you got to go to Muddy River News to see it. So if you're watching this and enjoying this on Friday, you should go to the Muddy River TV site because Meg Duncan's got some good scoop coming out of Hannibal involving the school system. So
On the Muddy River TV site? Or
No,
the news
it's
site?
on the news
Okay,
site.
you
Go to the
said-
Muddy River News
There
site.
you go.
You're currently watching this on the Muddy River TV
Yes.
site, we hope. And because, again, as most of you know by now, we have our third website, the TV site.
Whoop, whoop.
That's doing really well. I mean, the
Awesome.
numbers are kicking up, and it's nice because it's also freed up the news sites. It's not as cluttered as it was. But the TV site, it's we've had a lot of cool new stuff on there. We're
I
doing.
love the preview, like, before. I don't know who creates the content that kind of teases, do you?
Me,
They're
yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Do a really good, you are a wordsmith of
Thanks.
all wordsmiths.
Thanks. I try.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you haven't checked it out, Muddy River News, Muddy River TV, so you can get to it from muddyrivernews.com.
You can. Well, you can if you click the box. Yeah, you click the Muddy River TV box in the corner that gets you to the TV site.
Yeah.
So we
Very
got
cool.
lots of good stuff coming down there, and again with the news from Hannibal and all the other things that we have going on. And again, it's been yet another busy week, and the exciting news next week's city council meeting, not the city council meeting, but the finance committee meeting should be interesting because we're going to be talking about roundabouts again.
Ooh.
I like them when I go to Herman. When you go to Herman, Missouri,
Yeah.
on Highway 19, you encounter 4 roundabouts.
Mm-hmm.
Between your first one that you hit is in Martins is just north of Ladonia, Missouri, by Community R6 School, and then you hit 3 more on the way to Herman. They're fine.
They're
great.
all on the highway, though?
Yeah, lots of traffic.
None
No.
of them in four-way stops.
No, the city of Perry does not have a roundabout, nor does it need one.
Yeah. Wentzville has a
City-
roundabout.
Wentzville does, yeah. Wentzville has a lot of them, actually.
And I actually really enjoy when it works. But you get that one guy in there who's doing the Christmas vacation thing or
That's me.
the London vacation or
It's
whatever.
me.
I mean, I can't say that I've never done it, but I'm like, okay, I've seen you 6 times and I can't get through, so let's go.
You know who else it is?
Go.
It's Steve Inger. On his
Okay,
way to
so-
on his way to Columbia to cover a football game a couple years ago, the one that I'm talking about that's at the Community R6 in Audrain County, he spun around like 4 times and ended up in Montgomery City instead of Columbia.
Yeah, that's what I said. See, that's what I'm talking about. So it's not necessarily political. It is about
Roundabouts are not political
No.
at all. Like,
No.
for somebody to be like, why are roundabouts political? They're not.
No.
It's money
It's
that is
money.
political behind it. No one cares about, like, if you're one way or the other on a
or
roundabout.
who's pimping it or who's against it.
It's the money
yeah, it's
behind
money.
it, and the money behind this one is all. I think people didn't understand that it's a collaborative between both the county and the city. Some people were like, "That's just a city problem." No, it's county and city. This whole deal was a deal that I think started 9 years
10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
and what it was the county said to the city, we have these 2 streets, you have these 2 streets, this is the solution. If we don't come to this solution by this date, then county, we're wiping our hands of it, and it's yours to the city. Now, in that, they've done things like acquired grants and stuff like that. And one of those grants is there's a $2 million grant up that's getting ready to expire. That's
Okay.
why this has to happen
Okay.
now. And if that $2 million grant goes away, then we lose the money for the roundabout.
How much is a roundabout?
Well,
Anybody
this
know?
one is
This
5.
one's about sniffing $5 million.
It's
Okay.
actually closer to 6, and then by the time it's said and done, I mean, I know you sign contracts,
Well,
but
with
inflation.
the statue of Bob in the middle, it's going to be closer to 6 or 7.
gonna be
but
bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so it's if this doesn't happen, then I guess that intersection goes to the city. And my say on this is, one, that $2 million, it's a sale. like we don't shop at sales. I mean, I shop at sales, but as a city, we should not shop, or as a county or a municipality, we don't shop at sales, because that's going to create problems later, maybe maintenance later. The biggest argument that I've seen online, and it is the most valid, other four-way stops, other four-way stops are busier. Like, I spend moments, I drive through that four-way stop every single day, and I spend moments in it. Yes, it is high trafficked at times, you know, but that 24th and Harrison is way worse. Yeah. If I'm coming up on 48th and State after a game, you know, like a John Wood game or something, I'm from Quincy, so I know there's other ways around that four-way stop if I need to, if I really don't want to sit there for a solid 5 minutes. So we are so spoiled with our traffic.
We are spoiled. Okay, I did hear it's a pretty solid argument, because I asked about a stoplight, right? And could be censored, could be timed. However, I know there are different functionalities there. The big concern with that is people coming over the hill that may not know, right? Which could be cause for accident, which I understand. So I do think a consistent flow of traffic would be nice. However, if we don't have the money, where does that money come from? And how do we, right? The almighty question, it just it doesn't grow on trees. So with all of the expenses that are being raised across the board in households and taxes and water and blah, 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 it's like, where are we going to get, even if it is an extra 3 to 4 mil, that's a lot of money. Who pays for it, and how do we get that?
So, okay, on the dip, when you go, why wouldn't you just put a flashing red thing that says slow down? There's like a dip.
I kind of thought that too, but I thought we had someone explain to us. They came on here. I thought it was Ryan Hinkamper.
It was. He was the one who said that it was a safety issue.
Yeah. That the ground has to be leveled out, and that would cost more. But I've had it explained to me by someone else recently that, no, the roundabout will cost more up front. And a stoplight would cost more in the long run, because you have to pay for it. So, but again, aren't there more precedent things to be
like my statue?
Well, I mean, I think there are. It's just we have a lot of plans for Quincy, which I love. I mean, I love the foresight to grow and to bring in different aspects that kind of help us grow into this bigger city feel, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of our budgets and the people that we're trying to please, and how can we do? What are the alternatives, and what makes the most sense? Not what's the most attractive for the community. Like, it would be really cool, but I know a lot of things would be really cool for this community, right? A lot of things. So, is a roundabout the most pressing, right? Also, I have a lot of friends that have businesses out there, so how are they affected, whether it's county or city? Are they going to have to close for a certain amount of time? And so there are just a lot of questions, and I think that there should be more discussions. Do I think it's ultimately a terrible idea? No, I think it's really cool, but how does that all shake out in the end?
Actually, my statue should go next to John Wood.
I love that you're...
Because then I can... It's a statue of me pointing and going, Wood.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I was thinking more like, what's that, David?
Adonis.
Statue of David.
Adonis.
Oh. Isn't that so funny with like the birds and like,
It's a very small statue,
I was going to say, so that's not that
very
I'm like
flattering.
Commenting on your stature,
the
but...
statue of me pointing at John Wood and going, Wood.
Yeah, John Wood.
Would be much funnier.
Cool.
John Wood's Wood,
I do have a question, and maybe you can answer it. Why? So it is a collaborative, and right now it's a 70-30 collaborative. So that means 70% of this is being paid by the city, 30% is being paid by the county. Why is the county so wanting to like wipe their hands of it just because it costs, because they got this deal in place, and now it's like, but why wouldn't the county and city want to be working together?
Well, I think the county, so a lot of the businesses that I was referring to are considered county, and they're probably in their ear saying, no, we're not supporting this. And those people are voted by those so it's a kind of a, I don't know.
I just don't understand why the county would wash their hands of something and then say, well, it's on you, city, to take care of this, and in 6 years from now, it might be crumbling, when county and city are supposed to be backing community.
Right.
So,
well, again, the city's paying more because of the work that's needed on the city streets, the culverts and the other things. So that's why that's going to be, because the county's already done some of the work on especially on 48th. That's just north of that intersection. They've already done some work there.
so the county's done their part, and that's why they're trying to wash their hands of it?
They've still got more to do on there, obviously, especially when you go toward east. What we call East State that way.
Yeah.
So, but you could, because the whole intersection itself needs to be built up and reinforced. That's what it needs to be done. Now,
When you're saying reinforced, what do you mean?
like the culverts and the infrastructure and new pipes and water and sewer, all that stuff.
Everywhere.
Yes, but this intersection apparently there's some stress levels to it. So it's like you can tell it needs bolstering.
Okay.
Now, could you just bolster it and fix the four-way and put the new signs up and leave it alone like it is?
Yes.
Sure. And that'd be cheaper. But then some people have wanted
cool.
lights. And, John Wood and Blessing and the school district have all been supporting something to improve traffic flow.
By supporting, are they financially supporting it?
No, they just have properties out there.
No, because they're not for profit.
Okay.
So they just...
I was just wondering if, when you said supporting,
no, they're verbally.
I would support something too if it was good for me and I didn't have to pay for
they're
it.
on the bandwagon of the roundabout,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
I think everybody would. It's just a matter of money, not politics, not
Yeah, a
anything else.
roundabout's
It's like-
not political.
Right, and I'm all for trying to make Quincy, because like I said, Wentzville, you go there, it's very smooth, it's very cool. However, here's going to be my thing. If we can afford a roundabout, I hope we can afford some driving training courses for these people who have to tackle it that can't even drive in the GD rain. So
Steve Inger.
I'm just saying, as I was driving here, I'm like, people cannot handle a four-way stop.
Oh, I can handle those.
Yeah.
I can handle those all
right.
day.
Most people in this town cannot, and I'm not saying any age group. I'm just saying rain, four-way stop, throw in a train track, we're screwed. I'm just saying, people have a very big brain fart every time they go to something. It's especially something new. Now, granted, they'll get used to it and they'll figure it out eventually, but I can't help but think there's going to be some car dings and
What when you were on your way over here and got stuck behind the bus? What street were you on?
that was so I was going 48th Street. So
You were on 48.
Yeah.
We got stuck. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. But so this morning when I was heading downtown, I was on Broadway, and there was a school bus stopped by Dollar General at 20th and Broadway.
okay.
A school bus stopped on Broadway.
Yeah.
So, of course, both flow
Everybody
lanes
has
of
to stop.
traffic stop. Yeah.
Which they should.
Technically,
don't have
on
to?
Broadway, nope. I've
Because
had.
it's
They
state.
should.
Really?
No.
I didn't want to, but it did.
On the
Well,
other side, they technically do not
My
have
kid's
to.
on that school bus.
It's
You
just
both
on
better
Broadway.
stop.
How about that school
Yeah.
bus pull off to 22nd Street, and then the kids walk their butts down half a block?
Well,
so the
then
school bus is not on Broadway. The school bus is on a side street.
I will go ahead and speak for the school bus on this one, because there are very few school bus drivers. So when they
That's true.
kind of take the path
Well,
of
that's
least
true.
resistance. So if they have to go, actually I'm speaking on behalf of a parent. So if my kid's on the school bus for an extra 15 minutes because you don't want to stop on Broadway for them, and you know what I mean? And my kid is chancing getting hit, which I don't think they should ever have to cross Broadway anyway.
Oh,
but-
gosh, no.
So it's just,
Gosh, no.
there are so many different
Well,
ways to look at
I've
everything.
actually had this conversation with Scott Douglas, and he
Yeah.
told me the same thing, and I'm fine.
Right?
I'm being facetious.
Yeah, no,
but
I
Scott's my
get it.
friend, and I was just
and
still
I'm
giving
kind of
crap
being
about it.
facetious when I talk about people that can't drive in Quincy, but kind of not, because it is a real problem. And throw in any element, whether it is a roundabout, rain, windshield wipers that won't turn off, which I've had that before. It's just throw in any element that's out of the ordinary, and people just kind of oh my God, what do I do? So,
Speaking of elements out of the ordinary.
oh gosh,
Not yet.
what?
No, not yet.
One question, just one thing.
Oh.
Did we win? How's volleyball?
Ah, yes.
Ah! So they won regionals last night. 8th grade
That's
junior
Wednesday
high
night.
volleyball team. I'm sorry, Wednesday night. 8th grade junior high volleyball worked really, really hard against Jacksonville Crimsons, I think is who it was, and they got the win in the third set. They worked really, really hard. Super proud of them. Next up is sectionals in Chatham, and they have yet to beat this team, but fingers crossed. So if you're the praying type or the positive vibes or the fingers crossed, I don't care what it is, but throw
Send
them
them
out
to
there.
the comments.
Yeah. Chatham what night?
It is Monday night.
Oh, yeah, Monday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go through an entire weekend of volleyball tournaments in the Quad Cities, and then we come back to drive to Chatham on Monday. You know what, though? That's how you know it's love.
But the volleyball tournaments are outside of
it's
Commons.
club. Yeah, it's a different.
It's just
thing.
extra practice
It's
for
just
it.
It's
Exactly.
just more fun for her
But
and
go
more
Commons.
expenses for the parents. But that's what we're here for, right?
So you got to cut out the strippers and blow. That's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
dang it! I know. That's what I said. That's
We had
so
these conversations earlier today.
Yeah,
so.
I was like, "Hey, do you mind paying me? I gotta go out of town this weekend and get some money for strippers and blow." And as much fun as that would be, I feel like this is going to be way more fun.
I have to buy ice cream for my daughters instead of strippers and blow.
Yeah,
Mom of the year.
Yeah, I know, right? It's sacrifices we make. What can I say? Hey, and there you go. There's your kind of like tie-in. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices. However, I think sometimes you have to be smart about those, and I think that's kind of where the roundabout discussion comes in. If there are cheaper alternatives that will still satisfy the need of the community, we should probably look at those. Yeah, and I think there are. So
Yeah.
Just nailed that.
She did.
that's how I put
was
my.
good.
That's a solid bold period at the end of that statement.
Now you can tell your Mother of the Year story.
Yeah.
My Mother of the Year
Yes.
story.
Defended your child.
Yes, I did. Well, it wasn't
And you're
me.
continuing to defend your child
I'm
and your
trying.
home
I'm
and your
trying.
family.
Mama
Yes.
bear. Do
So it all started a couple years ago. I listened to my daughter. She has to go outside, and I'm always weary about like letting her out in our backyard because we don't live in the greatest of neighborhoods.
Wait a minute. You said she has to go outside, and I'm weary of letting her in the backyard. This sounds like a dog. Okay, so she has to go outside.
No, this is
just
my
to play.
daughter. I said
know.
my daughter.
Okay,
So
all right.
she has to go outside
Okay.
and play. At
Yes.
the time, she's like, 8 years old. This
Right.
is about 4 years ago. And I hear really loudly, "Mom, there's a bum in our yard." I'm
Holy
like,
shit.
what is going
Is
on?
that an
So
acceptable term?
I don't know, but she knew exactly what he was because that's what he was.
The home insecure.
Yes. So I
Whatever you
went
call
running out there with nothing, like in hand. I don't know. You panic. It's a surprise.
You had clothes on, right?
That time I did.
Good.
And
No open road.
So there's been
no
times where
open
you
road.
haven't.
There have
Okay.
been times when
Okay.
I haven't. So no, I was clothed, and I went out there, and he's just laying there in my yard, and he's awake. He goes, "Get out of my house!" I'm like, "Oh, you're
Funny, I was saying the same thing.
Yeah, in my yard." And the first thing I did was offer him a glass of water. I don't know why. Like I feel like
because
it's
you're
like
amazing.
it's the bartender thing. Like if there's anything ever wrong, you're like, "Do you need a glass of water?"
Because she knew he couldn't afford a drink, so she wouldn't give him a drink.
I know.
That's the bartender
That's
thing.
the bar-
Or you just get the hose
I
out and
don't-
you're like, listen here.
Well, yeah, I was about to.
Yeah.
So I say to Mayla, "Go get him a glass of water. Call the police."
Yeah.
And she goes running inside. And we'll go ahead and skip the middle part of this story for my own liability purposes. And the man went running away. Oh, wait. Backtrack real quick. The whole reason why I'm doing this. He stood up, and that bum was a boxing bum.
Oh, shit.
Bad
That's the
bum.
worst
That's
kind.
kind of why I have to black out the whole story. And
Are
I
you
realized
really tell me that you punched this
I'm not
boxing
telling
bum?
you anything,
All right,
but
all right.
I will tell you that I had 2 dogs there, my big dog Wilma, and I said to her, "Wilma, sick 'em." She goes running behind me. But then my little dog, Chubbs, R.I.P., God rest his soul, not from this, went running after Sir Bum, and the bum punted Chubbs like a football, and my little Chihuahua was yay big,
Like
10
football.
pounds, like a football, and I watched him be punted, and after that, I melted. It was-
Blackout. I would have.
so that's why I have to
immediately
pause. I have
blackout.
to pause. I don't know what
Did
happened.
not have
Blackout.
I
Yep.
did not have pugilistic relations with that bum.
There you go with the boxing bum. Yeah.
So I find out later, though, like all in all, the bum kind of was a problem because I have a vacant lot that sits next to me.
Yeah.
That's been a problem for quite some time. It just sits there unattended. It was an unfortunate event. A woman, she lost her house in a house fire. She lost her dog in the house fire. She lost a partner, I believe, like an actual man died in this house fire 7 years ago. It was a super sad situation. And that house stood burnt and unattended.
Dilapidated, yeah.
Yes. And she left 2 dogs out there, which I was not too fond of. But
I'll punch her.
Yes. Side she wasn't the greatest because you leave 2 dogs, and this is the middle of the winter. And so, but we got that situation taken care of with the dogs. That was like primary for me. The house then, it sat for a while. The city of Quincy eventually cleaned it up, and there's a lien against the house. And it sat as a vacant lot. So that is where Sir Bum kind of hung out, was in this vacant lot, him and his friends, quite often. I found a lot of him and his friends in my yard regularly after this incident. So I decided, Mike, you're building a fence. So we built a fence.
I thought you were going to say bear traps. That would have been my first. Okay. All right. You're
good
a little more
fences,
humane.
Good fences make good neighbors.
There you go.
So we built a fortress around, and that vacant lot sits empty still, and my fence butts up against it. But I think I know Sir Bum, he might not be the same one, and his friends still party there because there's furniture and all kinds of things that I think are called shake and bake, and there were tanks.
It's getting methy, is what you're saying. It's getting
bottles
methy
of
over
Mad
there.
Dog.
Yeah,
And,
it's getting
Yeah.
methy.
So basically, it's just sad that this lot has been sitting there forever, and we made it very clear. When I say we, my husband and I made it very clear, I don't want that. I want to do something with that lot. So we, 5 or 6 years ago, tried to acquire it, found out this isn't going to happen this easily. Well, in September of 2023, so fast forward almost 7 years later, the lot came up for auction. And I thought, for sure, this is it. This is ours. This is where, or something's going to happen where it just doesn't sit scary and dangerous and whatnot. Well, the blind auction that was put into place through Adams County, I'm calling these blind auctions. It's like tax sale, ended up coming to a halt because the Landbank pulled that from the tax sale. And I didn't even know what a land bank was. So
I have so many questions.
I had so many questions.
You'll have to watch the second half of the show then.
Yeah, I cannot wait to hear about this.
So I got interested in the land bank, and I delved into it, and I asked Bob to help me with getting the hookup with Mr. Chad Landbank.
And he's your next guest.
He is our guest.
I cannot wait to hear the conversation that is about to take place.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for not only being a mama bear to your daughter,
but
against
hashtag
Sir Bum.
Justice for Chubbs,
Justice for Chubbs, but also this is something that you have to live with. And I think that it's good that you're taking a stake in it.
I am.
Right?
Also, this is not only my problem. This is everyone's problem.
So
it's not yes, it's a neighborhood problem in this instance, but I'm not the only person that has had this situation where you have a vacant lot sitting next to your home and we want something done about it.
Ooh, land bank. All right. So not that this is the first time I've heard of it, but I'm very, very interested to hear all the ins and outs about the land bank from Mr. Chad Landbank.
I'm looking forward to getting into it.
All right.
Figuring it all out.
Mr. Chad Landbank, you got some questions to answer, my friend.
We'll be right back.
Kicking back old school tracks like damn. Can't get enough of this mode like I don't even know where I am.
A&B Properties is Quincy's largest apartment rental company with hundreds of units available. They offer short-term and long-term rentals with 1 up to 4 bedroom apartments. A&B Properties meets the needs of its tenants with care, compassion, and a quality of service that exceeds expectations. A&B Properties also has a convenient tenant app for you to do your payments or make repair requests. Give them a call today. A&B Properties, 217-919-8080, Quincy.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
Yeah, I hardly ever drink beer anymore anyways. It's pretty much always bourbon, but I stopped mixing. That helped too. Just
Yeah.
because you sip and you don't drink as much and you don't have as many calories.
Yeah. If here I kind of pace because I don't want to just get completely shit hammered. But I mean,
Whatever.
if I'm home, it'll be like the straight stuff. So, have you had Crown Blackberry yet?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's
really
good.
good, yeah.
I didn't think I'd like
Jerry's
it.
a big Crown flavored person,
Yeah.
so I always try them whenever I go there.
Jerry.
But you didn't mix it with anything, or did you?
The Crown?
Yeah.
With cream. The blackberry I put with 7-Up.
Okay. I've heard 7-Up. I've heard cranberry. I've heard really good with lemonade.
Yeah.
And
He likes it
then,
with cranberry. 'Cause it's
with rum shada. It tastes like it's supposed to taste like blackberry cobbler. I don't know.
Who knew?
Maybe. Yeah. That's weird.
Don't trust me. I don't drink it.
Blackberry cobbler sounds good.
I'm not a whiskey person.
Pie. Okay. Chad Frederick is our guest. Welcome.
Thanks, Bob.
Would you please give your title to everyone because I'm not sure exactly what it is because it's lengthy.
Well, it's more than one, yeah. I'm Chad Frederick, and I'm the Community Development Director for Two Rivers Regional Council, but the main reason I'm here today is because I'm the Executive Director for the Two Rivers Landbank Authority.
Which was established when?
It would have been established 2 years ago, I believe, at this point.
Okay. Brittany has been wanting to talk to you for a while about this, and you're both friends of mine, so I was able to make this happen. I'm glad. And
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
but I think one thing is basically the basic question that I think a lot of folks have. I mean, we've kind of been hearing about it for a while, and Brittany's been involved in it. But what exactly does the land bank do?
That's a great question. The funny part about it is that most people, they hear the word bank and everything kind of goes in a different direction. A lot of people don't really understand, and even if you read about it, they don't necessarily understand. But the main thing that a land bank does, if you just want to distill it down to the most simplistic terms, is that they try to help whatever the local municipality is, whoever are the members of the land bank, be able to get abandoned, blighted, vacant houses, lots, whatever the case may be, and get them back into some sort of useful manner.
So, but when you talk about municipalities, it's 6 counties involved in ours?
No, we only have Adams and Morgan, and then we have the city of Quincy and the city of Jacksonville. That's all we have currently. We are we've I don't want to use the term vetted, but like other people have definitely approached us, but we've just kind of been still wanting to try to keep our feet where we're at because we haven't quite got to the point where we feel comfortable, especially from a capacity perspective, considering that I am literally the only employee.
Yeah, you're the only staffer.
Yeah.
But you report to a board.
Correct.
And this board has representatives from Adams County, Quincy,
Right.
Who are the board
Morgan
members?
County, and Jacksonville.
You're going to put me on the spot here. Okay, so the way that the board is comprised is that you have a officer from each municipality / entity, and then you have a expert advisor that's also there. So I'll run it down if I can, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure they'll let me know. So Brett Austin is our chair. He is from Adams County, and then Shane Fee would be his expert advisor, who's a banker here in town. And then for the city of Quincy, we have Ben Uzalak, who is the treasurer, and then Michael Seaver is our expert advisor who works for Chuck. I'm sure you guys, I'll tell you who Michael Seaver is. And then for Jacksonville, you have Brian Nyberg, who is my vice chair. And then we have Jenny Fanning is the secretary. She's for Morgan County, and then their expert advisors are Kevin Heitz, who is a banker, and then Mike Oldenettle, who is a realtor.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks.
A couple of bankers.
If we get any more entities, it's going to be hard.
couple of bankers on there. I heard.
Well, I mean, and with the expert advisor perspective, the key, our goal was to get city planner type people, bankers, realtors, anybody that can truly actually kind of speak to what the situation of the lay of the land is regarding properties.
Okay, so these meetings are conducted monthly, or
we try for monthly. As anybody who has ever dealt with boards knows, it's really hard for me to get quorum and to make this work. But I would say, and everything's posted on our website. If you look, you can see the monthly. Oh wait, 2 months. Monthly. Oh wait, 2 months. And that's just kind of the way it's worked. But overall, we try to do monthly. If nothing else, it's just to check in and make sure that we have any new issues. Also, kind of jump ahead just a tiny bit, we have legal representation from IDA that is paid for. So we have a technical assistant. So we have 2 lawyers that are always on there with us that were kind of from the beginning involved. And so it's also, I like to try to keep monthly meetings just because I like to be able to not just email me and them. I'd like to have all the board members be able to talk to them and kind of bounce anything off of them.
IDA's not your aunt. It's the Illinois Development, not Aunt IDA. It's the Illinois Development Authority, correct?
Illinois Housing Development Authority, yes. And that's where the majority of everything regarding the land bank kind of comes from. That's what the feasibility study that was done in the first place, to be able to see, kind of where the counties were and whether the land bank would be a good fit. IDA's the one that gave money for that. The Strong Communities grants that we've gotten for the county, and then also now the city of Jacksonville has, we can utilize that as some way to reimburse for some of the land bank stuff that we're doing too. So a lot of the money is coming from IDA and the entities themselves, but hopefully, cross fingers, that eventually there'll be some federal funding for land banks. I mean, it's becoming very prevalent. A lot of states have it, but we haven't been able to find a way to have a steady stream of income that's like state and federal money.
So that's how it's funded. It is.
Yep.
Okay. So walk me through a general meeting real quick.
Basic general meeting is that once we get it started, is that, it's called to order. We have an agenda. There's always an agenda that we run through. We always now have quorum in person. Otherwise, because they stopped that, obviously. We can't do just Zoom anymore. But we'll always have a few people online, especially the lawyers. That way they're always there to kind of walk through everything, which I like to have as a fail-safe because, there's just too many things. I mean, it's a ridiculous learning curve. And so I don't feel comfortable enough, honestly, to not have them be there to be able to run stuff off of, and which is nice. And then we'll go through whatever possible properties might be needing to be talked about. We'll go through what's happening in Jacksonville, whether it's working for them. They really hit the ground running. They did wonderful. They've just knocked it out of the park immediately. So the nice thing about that is it's a good learning curve then for Adams and Quincy, which was a little slower to the ball game. And so now we can kind of see what Jacksonville did and worked. And, the landscapes aren't too different.
So we're modeling ours after the Jacksonville?
I wouldn't say modeling. I would say seeing what has worked. And what hasn't worked. For example, one thing that they are using a realtor to kind of help from a marketing perspective and do it. So they got an RFQ. They went ahead and went through all the normal legal to be able to do that. And now they have somebody that kind of does that. So it makes it really nice because then you have an extra layer to be able to try to find appropriate people or appropriate developers or appropriate entities that want to buy the properties. And then we can do all the closing and do all this stuff via easy online and not have to do all this stuff. It makes it also nice because then we can, our application process, which I think you were going to ask about that anyway. I'm sorry to jump ahead. We have an application right on our website. It's very simple and straightforward. But it's also nice to have a realtor involved because then they can make sure that we're reaching everybody. I feel sometimes that's one of the problems is that it's hard to market it and get as a response from
You're
everything.
talking marketing actual properties.
Correct.
Okay.
Because you'd have to know about it. You'd have to know about our application process. I mean, I have signs now and all that different stuff, but it still boils down to without some level of maybe realtor help, it's hard to get it out to everybody that might need to hear about it.
Okay, so who is identifying these properties?
Great question. It could be anyone. Generally speaking, each municipality and or entity kind of brings it to me and or the meeting and or the other people. It's all. I'd love to tell you that there's a cookie cutter way of doing it, but it doesn't seem to be that way. Here in town, Chuck, Mike, people will kind of keep an eye on stuff. You know when taxes not been paid and you don't have a water bill being paid, you got to figure maybe there's something wrong here. And then we do a little recon and find out, nobody lives there. Well, then we kind of go to the next level and see, okay, well, what's going on? Are there any liens? Is there anything that's going to keep us from being able to, help with the situation? And then we kind of just go that direction.
If there are liens, how does that work?
You have to go about it from a completely different angle and find out what those liens are. Every time we get a property that comes to the land bank, we do a title search. That way that we don't run into any problems. So our lawyers then do a title search through a title search company to see if there's any problems that are going to exist when it comes time to actually selling this to someone.
Do generally the liens get lifted once the land bank takes?
They can be lifted, or there could be tax problems, and we could possibly wipe those taxes. It is possible. It all depends on what you're going to what the best thing for the municipality is, not so much for the land bank itself. Sometimes the liens are. Sometimes we'd have to file an abandonment case then in the courts as opposed to just being able to take title. You never know until you get into it. The good news is the majority of them are not problematic.
Okay, so what makes a property off limits?
Well, first, people live there. That's not something we want to do. I mean, technically, the land bank, you probably have seen that. They do have some powers in that way. That's not our thing. We have no intention because there's enough problems that need to exist without going after anybody that lives anywhere. Plus, as I've read, just a lengthy litigation process that is unnecessary. I think the main thing to do is to always look for vacant properties, abandoned properties, things that make sense. Off limits would be that.
Okay.
And I guess when you say off limits, I don't think that there are going to be any liens and stuff that make something off limits, but it also makes something sometimes not desirable. So maybe it would be off limits from a standpoint that we don't necessarily want to go after it.
I think like in so the situation that I was referring to earlier with a property that I was looking into, is my neighbor's property, right? This is this abandoned property.
Okay.
It's 210 Kentucky. So backstory for you real quick, since I've already given it to the listener. It was up for what you would call I'm going to call it blind bid or blind auction.
Right.
So that was a tax blind auction through the county.
Tax sale, right?
Tax sale. So I'm still going to refer to it as blind auction because that's how I
You're
say
not
this.
wrong. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this property was going up for a blind auction, and the land bank decided to take it from the blind auction. It was then later discussed that's when I found out what is a land bank. I didn't even know a land bank existed. Well, then it was later discussed and brought to my attention by Bryden Corey, actually, who is the treasurer of Adams County.
Treasurer, yes.
That this kind of goes against what the land bank's rules were, because the whole mission statement is vacant or properties that no one wants. And it was very, I guess, well known that all the neighbors in the area wanted or expressed that they wanted.
You weren't the only one who was
Oh,
interested
absolutely
in
not,
this.
no. The neighbors to the north, the south, and the east were all interested. So it was up for the blind bid, and then the land bank pulled it. It went back up for blind bid once it was told, or brought to light that, hey, maybe we did overstep. It was openly admitted that this was overstep. So it goes back up for auction, and the blind auction. And long story short, the lady ended up paying her taxes, but she still has a lien on it, and it's still an abandoned property that still sits there unattended. And unfortunately, I believe she's probably going to go through another set of liens, because then more cleanups, just for the fact that it's not safe, it's dangerous, it's not just out of city ordinance code, it's actually dangerous. So she just goes back into this cycle of not being able to afford things. When does, I guess, the land bank step in again?
Well, you just set up perfectly I'm so happy you said it the way you said it and told the entire story, because you actually hit two major things. Yes. Going back to what you said originally, me not living here, obviously, I get everything from after the fact, after things happen.
Yeah.
But I'm also the person that dealt with everything that you just said.
Yes.
Twofold. If the neighbors were interested in buying it, and that was something that was known, then we probably should have waited and or talked to the neighbors first. That I completely understood, which is also what we talked to our lawyers about, and everybody. It's like, we didn't do anything wrong, but we probably overstepped. Yes, I love the way you put that, because it's true. Legally, we did exactly what a land bank normally should do. The problem is that if we knew people were interested, we could have went about that completely differently. But if we would have done what we should do, we wouldn't be in the situation that you're now in, because that's why the land bank would have stepped in and taken care of the lien situation and probably filed an abandonment case and done the things that needed to be done. And now the
lien was already lifted, and when it was up for blind sale the first time, it would have been sold.
So she got a new lien.
She's going to get a second lien again, but she just paid her back taxes is what she paid to keep it.
Brittany, is the property still abandoned?
Yes, it's still abandoned.
But she paid her back taxes, but she's still not living
There's nothing on the property right now?
No, she wanted to put her trailer there.
Oh, that didn't work?
I think that's against city ordinances, and I don't think there is an electric hookup or a water hookup or something.
That would be a problem.
I don't know. It is a sad situation.
Now the problem is that she's paid her taxes, so technically she's back in the cycle, the cyclical problem that exists, that is the problem literally everywhere.
But had the land bank not stepped in, the blind auction would have taken care of it, which that's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
So why is I guess what is the problem with these blind auctions?
Well, to be honest, I don't know how much of a problem it is in Adams County. I don't, because I don't live here, and I know that, like, if you go north, which we don't, I'll just say north, it's a problem because people that are buying the properties through the blind auction are not people that live there.
Do you mean Chicago?
Yes. So the problem is that the reason why blind auctions are an issue and the tax sale the entire problem exists because of these is because you end up in the exact situation with the cycle constantly happening where somebody that's bought those properties doesn't live there, they don't care, they could give two craps about the community that they're living in, that the people are living in, and then they sit and then they deal with it. They're eating the taxes, they're eating up, they're making money off of the situation, and then nothing happens, and then you were right back in the same situation 3 years later where you have an even worse abandoned property that's even in worse shape. And so the reason the land bank is really, really beneficial is they're set up to stop the cycle.
I guess though, aren't they still stopping the cycle like of a perfectly like legitimate legal sale still?
Yes. The great point you're making is the fact that there is nothing that a land bank can do, and I know this is probably makes myself and the land bank sound like it's not important, but let's face it, that it won't get done, what I'm getting ready to say. We don't do anything that Quincy can't do themselves. We are nothing but an extension of the city of Quincy. We're an extension to the city of Jacksonville.
And an extension of the county.
We are literally an extension to the county. We are nothing more than a weapon / tool / another thing you can use that they could be doing themselves. But here's the reason why they're not doing it themselves. And this is not a knock on any of those entities. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the amount of people to be able to do it. And they don't really even have the ability to take care of their already existing huge amount of things they have to do as a city. So the last thing they can really do is go out and try to market abandoned properties on a constant basis.
So how many properties do currently the land bank have?
With everybody included, like including Jacksonville and everything? Yes. I would say probably, give or take, 20 to 25. And that's including the ones that the city is just now giving us. Now, those aren't clear title yet, but we're getting very close.
So until they are sold, is it the land bank's responsibility to then maintain?
Yep. So the city absolves themselves of all the extra.
So you bought a mower.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, but... Yes.
I mean, you guys have to take care of the maintenance, is what I'm saying.
We're responsible for maintenance. We're responsible for anything that might happen on that property. We have insurance for those properties. We have to maintain a certain amount that if anything vandalism or anything like that happens, we can make sure that things are fine.
I guess the other thing is when you say that's a situation like Brittany's, where you had 4 neighbors who were interested, and you had 4 neighbors who all, say 3 of the 4 neighbors, whatever, had a good track record. You knew who they were. They had a plan in place, whatever. And the bid process, instead of just taking the highest bid, you would, I'm just going to use round numbers, $1,000 bid or a $900 bid. Say, we like what the person with the $900 bid, we're not going to take the person with $1,000 bid. You can do that, right?
We're required to take whatever we think is the best fit for this.
Okay, so you can't just take the high bid.
We can, but we don't. Yes. I mean, technically you could take whatever bid you want, but by what our bylaws state and what we're asking for is a narrative that actually shows you're going to have the best use for the property.
So technically...
Now, if the best use for the property is the neighbor wants it because they don't want anybody else to live there, if that's the best use, we're going to sell it to them.
But this board gets to decide, instead of like in a blind auction where it would be completely fair, where you're not bidding neighbor against neighbor that live by each other, you are now going from neighbor to neighbor asking not only how much are you going to give us the land for, but what are you going to do with the property, which I understand, like I get the backstory, but you're basically opening up the opportunity to play favoritism, and I don't see, I guess, the fairness in that. Because so if I want to buy the land for more than said neighbor, and we both have just for, like, we both have the plan of we just want to maintain it so it's not dangerous anymore. Even if I wanted to bid more, because some of those people on that board absolutely do not like me, they could just be like,
Well, I mean, I get where you're coming from completely, but we as a board vote completely together. Like, the whole board votes.
But the board is made up of, on our Quincy side, like the Brett Austin, who is heavily involved in realtor. Like, I guess I don't see the conflict of interest there. Ben Uzelac, who is friends with Brett Austin, and then you said Michael Seaver. So, like, if one person in that isn't liked out of that group, you're kind of screwed, huh? It opens up, I don't know, I just think the land bank kind of opens up, it takes away from the blind bid, the fairness, and it opens up an opportunity to play favoritism with our local government.
If two bidders just had an identical plan, though, or say
If two bidders have an identical plan, we're going to go with the highest bid.
but if one person just said, okay, say one's a commercial and one's a residential. The commercial guy says, I want to extend my fence. The residential person says, I want to put in a pool. What would you do?
Commercial, because it's going to bring in more taxes.
I mean, we would look at all the factors. I mean, that would be a rough one, honestly. But yeah, probably Brittany's right. But okay, real quick, I want to just real quick because I'm not, and this is not a defense of anything that you've said, but I'm going to try to take people out of the mix and try to be, I don't know, say fairy tale-ish, but it's the truth in my opinion, is that we're never going to look at something as a whole. And if there was some reason why anyone, I'm not saying names, but anyone said, well, I don't think that that's a good plan, we would question that. I would question that. I'd like to think there would never be a case of we're not giving it to that person because we don't like them. I'm not saying that is not impossible because obviously I'm a realistic person, but I don't think we would allow that to happen because we would be looking at, I mean, we look heavily at the narrative. I mean, it's, if your narrative was the same as your neighbor's narrative and you're bidding 10 and they're bidding 9, you're getting the property. I don't care if everybody on the board hated you. You're getting the property because it makes the most sense. If their narrative was 9 and yours was 10 and you're going to do something that doesn't really help anything, but they're going to do something that made more sense, quote unquote, we'd have to look at that. I mean,
Are these side lot sales? Is that what this is? Like when you do that?
That's what that loose term for that, is. So it's side lot. Like you mean like when your neighbor buys it for?
Well, like when the land bank goes to, because like in the rule book or whatever, it says that you go to side lot sales first. And is that what that is?
Right, like so the neighbor wants it, right. I mean, that's if there's no real reason to, like if, for example, if a developer was wanting to buy a property and the neighbor was wanting to buy the property, if the developer has a good plan to be able to help the community, it's probably going to go to the developer.
Even though the side lots, like in the procedures or whatever, it says side lot sales first, I thought.
First?
Yeah, like that you offer the side lot sales first over the developers. I don't know.
I'd have to look at it. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I did notice that this procedures and manual, like it was adopted in 2023.
Yep.
Was there a reason why you needed to get this put in place?
Because they're supposed to have it. Like we needed to get it done. We had fiscal procedures we had to get done and everything like that. So while we were operating, we still have legal representation that made sure everything is above and done correctly.
But it operated without a manual for
I mean, it's still
2
had a
years?
manual just to have it adopted by the board, yeah.
Oh.
Yes, I see what you're saying, but yeah.
So if you're, I guess the one
Because
thing.
we have the IGA and the bylaws. I mean, so we knew we had to go by that.
International government, intergovernmental agreement,
Yeah,
not
sorry.
grocery store, right?
Right, not IGA.
Let's just make sure.
I didn't buy anything there. No.
Come on. Jay, acronyms sometimes, even though we all love acronyms, sometimes we have to explain what they
forget.
are. So, I guess the thing though is when you've got a situation here, and again, I would think the zoning of the area might have something to do with it too. I don't know, but again, when you're talking about people who have actually houses there, I mean that's a direct impact as opposed to somebody's business who goes in at 8 to 5 or what have you. So, one other rule I wanted to clarify: board members and officers, including yourself, of the land bank cannot participate in the sales. Correct?
Correct.
All board members, or is it just you?
All board members and me. And by participate, I mean that we cannot sell it to ourselves. We cannot sell it to someone that's related to us. We cannot sell it to anybody that we're bringing to it. It's like, hey, my best friend needs this. That's not the way it works. I mean, now if.
What about partners?
No.
No business
No
partners
business
either.
partners either, no. Now, that doesn't mean that we couldn't possibly know the person that is applying for it. Obviously,
Sure.
you can, but it's not going to be, I mean, by the nature of the beast, if you're related to the person, you can't get it.
So
It just helps. It helps with every level of conflict of interest. It's
Sure.
not even worth it.
yeah, absolutely. I think so too. Where then are all these properties are listed under the Two Rivers Land Bank?
Authority, right? Yeah.
And then other than that, you said there's not much marketing behind it. Like you have to just go there if you want to see the properties.
Right. I mean, we'll put pictures up on the website and do stuff like that. Again, you'll notice that Quincy has not had a lot as of yet. We're going to have all these lots, and I'm going to go out and start taking pictures of everything and put them on there as soon as we have clear title to everything. And that's where I think that we'll start seeing things pick up for the city here anyway, and the county, I guess. I mean, Brian in Jacksonville sells them as quick as he gets them. But he's now word of mouth. They know, they kind of know what's going on, and he has gone above and beyond to work his butt off to get stuff done. Not saying anything negative about what's going on here. That's just what he chose to do, and it's worked out nicely. But the good news about that is that he's, by doing what he's done, I can see what works, which is nice. And I think these lots will sell. I think all of them will sell. And it's not that the city was doing anything wrong. It's just that it's a lot for the city to be able to, number one, they're having to maintain vacant lots in the first place, and which is money and time, and then it's hard for them to market and sell them. That's what the job is for us to do.
We also had a situation just a couple of weeks ago where the city was about to turn over a bunch of property, then pulled some back because a previous bidder had been interested.
Correct. Right.
So,
in my opinion, this is just my opinion, the city could have not done that, went ahead and gave them all to the Landbank and told us that they already had a previous bidder, and we would have honored that and done it that way. And that way they wouldn't have had to gone through this weirdness. It's fine. It is what it is.
I think part of the reason too is because the city had advertised for those really clearly. I guess I don't.
And there was actual. I think it's literally not understanding. The person that pulled them back, or the people that were involved with pulling them back, thought that the land bank didn't have something in place that's like a deed restriction type situation where this had to be done. That's where the city does promise that, like, you have to build on it, or this has to happen. We put deed restrictions in on most things that we do, meaning that, like, if you don't fill your narrative of what you're saying you're going to do by 12 months, the land bank will take it back. If you don't, but you can also ask for an extension. I mean, that happens too. I mean, it's going to happen. Well, I can't quite get to where my narrative was in 12 months. Okay, cool. When can you think you can do it? And
well,
we can extend
I think
it out.
Another thing that will help is anytime. I mean, whenever the city's had the fix or flatten program for years, and all the media entities, well, generally at least us and the WIG and whoever, will report and say, hey, these are the properties. Mm-hmm. So people kind of find out that way. And I would hope that any properties that the city or the county or whoever turns over to you guys will also be discussed in open session at public meetings. Right. So they'll know those properties are coming your way. So the public will know those properties are coming your way.
Which should obviously help with marketing perspective too.
Okay. Speaking of meetings, my last question on this, and it is in regards to what happened with that property next to my neighbors. So all these meetings, everything that is decided with the land bank is decided in these meetings, right? Mm-hmm. Which are recorded. Mm-hmm. There was absolutely no record of 210 Kentucky Street in these recordings. So then that means, I guess, somebody would have had to make a deal or have pulled from blind bid outside of the meetings. I don't know who or what, but this had to have happened outside of the meeting because there's no record of 210 Kentucky Street, and the land bank pulled it from the blind bid and then gave it back to another blind bid, a second blind bid. Mm-hmm. Those bids were, I believe, in September and August.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Roughly, yeah. Well, all I can say is that I know that at this point, the land bank won't be doing that unless there's been discussion, and we're
and everything from here on out will be on record.
Yeah, and the fact that we would be looking at neighbors and talking to them, which is one of the things that Brett said, and as he went after the fact and talked to you guys. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing we're going to try to be very, very diligent about, is the fact that in a residential area, when it's not a lot and it's like an actual structure, and there's a structure there, we should probably be always discussing that with the neighbors and seeing. Now, it doesn't mean that their neighbors will always be the best option, but and I think that if we would have...
Isn't that, though, again, I don't know, it is the bidding neighbor against neighbor, and that kind of creates animosity in a neighborhood. Anyway,
because if you're all bidding on the blind bid, you're still bidding against each other.
But in a blind bid, it's blind and fair. You're not...
So are applications on our website. We don't tell you what the other people bid.
You don't say to them, this is what so-and-so, they can't counterbid then? You can't you're not playing real estate?
No, because we're not in it for actual real estate. This isn't, I know that sounds crazy to say this, but we're not really in it for the money. We're in it to get it back into a proper use, to be able to get it back into an actual use for the community. Mm-hmm. And for taxes. So, No. I mean, our application process is not, I hate using the term blind because it's not quite the same as blind because obviously there's a bunch of people looking at it once it comes in, but we literally just put out, this is your application. And we have actually posted on the website before that you have until this date to bid. It is a bid still technically.
Yeah.
And so, no, we wouldn't have done that. What we would have done is that hopefully all 3 of the neighbors would have bid, and then we would have looked at what the bids were. So it is the same as a blind bid in some ways because you have no idea what actually would be the best bid because that's what the blind bid freaks me out anyway because it's like,
A gamble.
how would you know, like, what, you can look at, like, the assessed value of that place and that doesn't mean anything to do with
No,
what.
not at all.
exactly.
So you have no idea what the bids are going to be. I guess historically you can always ask what historically has gone on, and they might tell you. I don't know if the county tells you that or not. But so yeah, we wouldn't be pitting you against each other any more than the normal blind bid would be. So we would have. I know if things would have played out and maybe not worked the way that they did, and then end up kind of becoming ugly in a sense. What we would have done, and like what I like to think we would have done, because this is what we're supposed to do, is we would have done it, and you would have had the same chance to apply. Everybody would have applied on the website, and everybody would have had their applications looked at by the board, for me first, and then the board, and we would have decided who was the winner.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure that. Again, not defending any person versus anything. I don't think what we did would have worked out badly if it would have just been left alone. It just maybe wasn't done properly. It would have had a good result. I think it would have had a better result than what it ended up being because now what we've been in, we're going to be back in the same stupid cycle.
That or had it, again, not stepped in. I think she would not have had then enough time
She
to
probably wouldn't
buy
have done it. No, I
her.
agree, yeah. Right.
I know she wouldn't have. She
I'm
told
actually
me this.
surprised that she did anyway. Yeah.
I think when you have little to nothing, you're going to grasp on for everything, and that's really sad. It is a really, really sad situation. This lady's house burnt down. Her dog died in it. A human died in it. It was not a good situation. This happened close to 7 years ago.
Not that house, though.
The house.
That's the house
yes.
that had the fire?
Mm-hmm. And it burnt down, and then it was just left alone, and she left 2 dogs tied up outside, which was really sad. And but somebody took care of the dogs, and we got that situation under control. And then it sat burnt for a couple of months, and the city of Quincy came and cleaned up the situation, and that's where the first lien came from. And that was about 7 years ago, like I said.
Was she not willing to sell to just one of you in general?
No, because she has a $7,000 lien on her house, and no one's going to pay for the lien.
Yeah, why would anybody? That's a lot.
So it's just, it's a sad cycle, and
that will stay in the cycle, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the address again, by the way?
Are we good?
We're always good.
No, I meant, are you
210 Kentucky Street.
I meant, did you have any more questions? I guess is what I said. I thought,
yeah, I guess. The property needs tending to, and it's sad because, like I said, I don't want to see more bills piled on her because people. It's out of her hands right now, and now people are just dumping things on this property. That's old furniture if they don't want it.
That's what's crap.
It's a club for some people to hang out.
Okay.
Thanks for looking into it, Chad Landbank.
Yes, going to.
All right. Well, thank you then for your time. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
We'll check in again in the not too distant future, I'm sure. Enjoy baseball season.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
Who's your team?
We're Cardinal fans, so
we're also in our Stratomatic League together.
Yeah.
So
I would assume Bob's similar to I am that we're not exactly extremely excited about the Cardinal season.
Well, go sports.
Go sports.